When I was in college, I went on 2 trips to Romania. I went with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, the college ministry that I was a part of. And the first time I went was the summer between my freshman and sophomore years. It was on that trip that I met Nathan. We started dating a few months after the trip ended, and by February of my junior year, we were engaged. The next summer, I returned to Romania, and for 4 weeks, I participated in summer camps put on by InterVarsity's sister organization in Romania. We worked with college students who wanted to improve their English and practice with native speakers. We did silly skits, and we went on hikes. I shared a country and people and place that I loved with my best friend and my sister. And I did all of that while my fiance was stateside and recovering from ACL reconstruction surgery. I did have a cell phone at that time, but it wasn't common to use your cell phones internationally then, and it was really expensive. Have you ever been away from someone you love for a significant amount of time without the possibility of communicating with them quickly? I wrote letters to him every day, but I knew if I tried to send them, they would arrive after I returned. And so then as soon as we found an internet cafe toward the end of the trip, I hopped on and I tried to send him some messages. I knew that I was where I needed to be, and yet I missed him. I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to hear from him. I wanted to know that he was doing okay. I wanted to see him. So last week we started this series on a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to a group of Jesus followers, people that he loved, who lived in Thessalonica. The series is called People of the Light, and it's based on a series of that same name from Adam Hamilton and Church of the Resurrection in Kansas City. The letter that we're studying is Paul's first letter to the church in Thessalonica, and it's included in our Bibles in the New Testament as 1 Thessalonians. Now, the letters and books that make up our New Testament were written in the century or so after Jesus lived on earth. And Paul was this early follower of Jesus. In our modern terms, we would call him a church planter. He gathered, taught, and encouraged communities of Jesus followers across Asia Minor. This letter is significant because most scholars agree it is the very earliest written document in the New Testament. This is a letter written by and for followers of Jesus in 50 AD. Now, Paul had probably written letters before this, but they weren't saved. This is the first letter we have from Paul that was saved, copied, and circulated among churches. So again, this letter was written in just about 50 AD, about 20 years after Jesus ascended into heaven. The first gospel, the first written account of Jesus' life and ministry, was written by the Apostle Mark in 70 AD, 20 years after this letter was written. Now, we don't always do this at Sycamore Creek, but I would love to invite you to bring your physical Bible to church and follow along with us, or if you're at home, follow along at home. If you don't have your Bible with you, you can use your phone browser or an app like Bible Gateway or the YouVersion app. Those are good choices. Now, in today's message, we're going to be discussing some of Paul's instructions to the church in Thessalonica on sex and sexuality. And as part of that discussion, we'll mention sexual assault, rape, and child sexual abuse. I don't want anyone to be caught off guard by that when we get to that part. And so if you already know that you need to protect yourself at this point in your path of healing, please know that we understand and we respect that. Do what you need to do. So let's set the stage for this letter and for today. Paul had been in Thessalonica with this faith community. He had preached there for a few weeks, gathering the church community together to teach them about Jesus and the gospel. Eventually, as we learned last week, the greater community threatens him, and so he flees from Thessalonica to Berea. And then he travels by ship to Athens, and he stays there for a few months. He's traveling with his protege, Timothy, and when he is personally unable to return to check on the Thessalonian church, he sends Timothy back to encourage them. He said, finally, when we could stand it no longer, we decided to stay alone in Athens, and we sent Timothy to visit you. He is our brother and God's co-worker in proclaiming the good news of Christ. We sent him to strengthen you, to encourage you in your faith, and to keep you from being shaken by the troubles you are going through. But you know that we are destined for such troubles. All right, so after Timothy leaves Athens, Paul travels on to Corinth, and he stays there for about 18 months. And while he's in Corinth, Timothy returns and shares a report about how the church in Thessalonica is doing. His report is glowing. The Thessalonians are doing well. They're standing firm. They're being faithful. So from Corinth, Paul sends a letter back to encourage them, a letter that we have come to know as 1 Thessalonians. He's encouraging them, commending them for what he hears from Timothy. They're faithful. They're steadfast in the face of resistance and persecution. So here's a chat question. Have you ever been separated from someone you love and you couldn't communicate with them? What did you or do you wish you could say to them? Take a minute and talk about it.